You are welcome in worship this morning, and we all worship in different ways. If that means you need nursery care for your children 5 and younger, we have that available. If that means you need hearing devices, we have those available, as well as a T-coil system. If that means you need something quiet to do with your hands, we have manipulatives for all ages in the narthex. With that, let us deepen into the spirit of worship with these words. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day.
If you'd rise as you are willing and able, and join us in singing our first hymn.
The Welcome to, I'm going to hide some cords. Hold on, everyone. You didn't see that. That's just so we don't trip. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge. My name is Nathan. I'm one of your ministers. I am pleased to welcome you today. If you're a visitor, we are especially glad that you're here, either in person or online. And online visitors, we know some of y'all scout the church for like 6 months before you come. That's okay and good, and do what you need to do to feel safe and comfortable coming here. The things you should know. First, if you are in person and you have blood you wish someone else had and they will accept it, we have the blood drive going on right now. So I would encourage those of you who are able to give to do that. Also today at 1, there will be Trans UU. This is a support group for family and friends of someone who is trans to kind of help you process the things that you either want to say or talk about in a way that isn't going to do it in front of someone who is non-binary or trans and kind of does some damage to them. Does that make sense? Okay, good. The 3 of you who got that, great. Today during middle hour in room 6 will be a meet and greet with one of the ministers, and in room 1, the social justice sub-team on climate is having a special guest, Mary Lee Orr, who helps to run Louisiana Environmental Action Network, will be here to be a part of that discussion. The only other things we have, next week is our annual blues service. If you've ever wanted to invite a friend, that is a good Sunday to invite someone. The blues band has been practicing weekly, daily, a lot. And then coming up also on the 28th of March is our auction. There's a table set up with information on it. If you have something to donate or if you would like to volunteer, please, please, please let us know, and please mark March 28th. This is going to be kind of a big to-do event. So March 28th, auction. The very last thing is we started our Lenten strategic planning process. We had 100 of you show up last Tuesday, and we actually ran out of spaces for people to meet because there were so many sub-teams and so many different needs. So just know that is going on. If you have been invited to be in one of those teams or you would like to be in one of those teams, please let me or a member of the strategic planning team, I'm going to just call on you, Kathy, just wave. Just tell Kathy. Online folks, I'm pointing to someone who is not on the chancel. But email us or let us know. It's good to be together. Or planning at unitarianbr.org. You could do that too. Or just talk to Kathy or me. All right, it's good to be together today.
And I'll tag on that just a little bit. If you're scared to hear that we ran out of meeting space, know that we are creating more meeting space. I am cleaning my office, and one lucky group gets to meet in there. So we are trying to accommodate and make sure everybody has space. The story this morning, the lesson, is a traditional story. It's found in many cultures. Like most wisdom tales, it is not literally true, but there is truth in it. And as we go through it, there's going to be a point where I need help. So when I ask for help, I want y'all to pitch in, please. Once upon a time, a traveler stopped in a small town, and he said to the people who lived there, "I'm looking for a safe place to sleep and have a hot meal. Can I find that here?" "Well, we can offer you a place to sleep, but we have very little food. Most of us are just barely getting by." "Oh," said the traveler. "Well, I was thinking of making some stone soup to share with you all." "Stone soup? What is that?" "It is the best soup I ever tasted. But it starts with a big pot and a fire." So someone brought a large soup pot and started the fire, and someone else filled the pot with clean, cold water. The traveler took out a wrinkled linen pouch. He pulled out a smooth, round stone, and he dropped it carefully into the pot. And as he stirred, he said, "I do like a tasty stone soup, but you know what would make it better? A little bit of seasoning." So a little child ran to their house and brought back salt and pepper. "That will make it so much better." And the traveler stirred for a moment and said, Of course, stone soup with carrots. That's really special. And so another child skipped to her house and brought back a big bunch of from their cellar. And the traveler broke them into pieces and dropped them into the broth and stirred and mused. This reminds me of the time that we had cabbage in our stone soup. It was delicious. There was silence. And a man said, I think we have in our pantry. And he brought it and a knife, and he sliced up the cabbage to add to the pot. And the traveler continued to stir. Can you imagine what this soup would taste like with a few more vegetables? It would be a meal fit for royalty. And people brought all kinds of things to add to the soup. Some people brought, other people brought, and hiding behind there were a few squashes. People brought, and parsley, and I think maybe basil, yes. And somebody brought a whole lot of, A young couple shyly offered different kinds of pasta that they had made. And another family said, that reminds us, we made bread just this morning, and the youngest child proudly brought out a couple of fresh loaves of bread to share. And when the soup was finally done, there was more than enough for everyone to eat their share. And afterward, with full tummies, they declared it was the best soup they had ever tasted. And at the end of the evening, as the group of people were laughing and singing and washing the dishes, the traveler carefully dried the stone and dropped it back into his pouch with a smile. For he knew the magic was not in the stone at all. It was in the people all along.
I invite you to join me now in a time of prayer. Loving God, Spirit of life, mystery in which we live and move and have our being, draw near to us this morning and hear our prayers. As a new day dawns this morning, many of us may be bringing worries and sadness to this space. As we look around our world and see yet more violence and war, as we see more innocent people killed in the name of political change, we may feel pain and powerlessness. We pray and we work and we wish for a world without war, for a world in which all may know peace. Closer to home, many of us may be holding different kinds of grief, whether it be the anniversary of unimaginable loss, grief for a place, a time, a version of ourselves that we cannot go back to. Know that your grief has a home here among us. Know that this is a place where our longings for peace are real and true and felt. And still, there has to be room for more, for us to open ourselves to joy wherever it lives, in the bird song, in flowers blooming, in the reminders that life can and does continue, even in the midst of worry and pain. For all these things and those known only in the silence of our hearts, we pray this morning. May it be so. Amen. This morning, we have a card for Donna Yelverton as her sister enters hospice. We're thinking of Donna and her family during this challenging time. This ritual of sharing stones is open to everyone, member and visitor alike. In a moment, I'll invite you to come forward, take a stone, and place it into the chalice. The stone can represent anything you're feeling that you want to bring into our sanctuary this morning. Please come forward now along the east and west walls. We light our chalice this morning with these words. With hope to make this a better world, we light this flame. Its light is a symbol of the power of love.
So let's talk just for a minute about legacy giving. Now, for those of you who feel like you do not have enough money, before you check out, please stick with me on this. Legacy giving is the idea of putting in place some gift to your church after you die. Now, first of all, everyone has a will, even if you cannot afford to make one or haven't gotten around to doing it. There is a plan for your estate after you die. In lieu of you writing your own will, however, it's whatever the state of Louisiana has determined will happen with your estate. All having a will does is put control back in your hands about what you want to happen. The generosity team has had robust discussions about the idea of publicly naming people who gave legacy gifts to this church. Part of the discomfort in these discussions, which I'm guessing might exist for some of you, is the fact that this might feel like just another manifestation of American wealth worship. I would like to offer you a reframing that the generosity team had about this. Instead of putting a dollar amount to be a part of the legacy quilt, we shifted it to a percentage. That means if your entire estate when you die is worth $300, or if your whole estate when you die is worth $50 million, both, if you give some amount in your will to the church, you will equally have a leaf on the legacy quilt. In other words, this quilt honors intention, not amount.
To add your name to our legacy circle, all you have to do is pick up a packet at the table under the legacy quilt in the reception area or go to our website. You may indicate that you've already named the church in a bequest for a certain amount or percentage of your assets via your will. To leave the church a legacy without having to execute a new will, you may simply name the church as a beneficiary in a retirement plan, annuity, trust, or life insurance policy. Anyone who makes a provision for the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge in their estate plans is eligible for membership in the Legacy Circle. If you're doing a new will, we have suggested language in the packet for you to consider with your lawyer. Donna Yelverton, Nancy Rabelais, and Tam Lee work on this and can provide you with information on will preparation, planned giving, and endowment fund opportunities. Once you return your form, you'll receive a pin to affix to your name tag, and we urge you to wear it as an example for others. We'll also add a leaf with your name on it to our Tree of Life quilt to recognize your legacy and encourage others to join you in ensuring their own legacy.
Just also some logistics. Donna, or I don't know what the magic is, but she does something that gets all of those names sewn in, and she is working on the names we're about to list. So if your name isn't there, it's coming. These are the people who have, whose names have been added since the last time we did this recognition in April of 2025.
Don Hoppy, J.T. Bacon,
Charles Freiling, Joanne Freiling,
Barbara Leclerc, Penny Nichols,
Carolyn Stutz, Charles Stutz,
Henry Tillman, Christine Naramore, Wendy Garnier,
Carol Landry, Rebecca Cummings.
Lucy Morrison, and Charles Williams.
Would you rise as we sing our next hymn?
And praise, for life is a gift are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
Yesterday morning, right as I was preparing for one of the 2 memorial services this church hosted yesterday, a member informed me that we had bombed Iran. As I was rushing out of the sanctuary to grab the order of service, my script for the memorial, the stole, my first reaction is that our president's chaos isn't my priority right now. He can have my attention when I am available. Later in the day, once I got home, I saw the news, and this does look like potentially a pretty big thing. But as it relates to worship today, and what our plan is for worship, my gut reaction remains true. Our president wants attention and will keep pushing the envelope to get it. I have other priorities, and because there isn't a lot I or we can do about it here and now, right now, I am choosing to put it off. The staff worked hard on this service for you today, and I am unwilling to throw that work out because he and the people around him are unable to lower the chaos. Also, I encourage all of us to do the deep and relational work of talking with family and friends and neighbors who may feel a different kind of way about this attack. I also encourage all of us to do our own internal work to understand Judaism and Islam well, so that a criticism of the rashness of this country and Israel's actions yesterday can be heard without us falling into either conscious or subconscious messages or tropes that are anti-Semitic or anti-Arab or anti-Muslim. In other words, can we criticize this without causing harm to some of our interfaith siblings? This is a long way to say that we are going to run this service as prepared. But we hope that if you need to talk with one of us to process this, you are able and willing to reach out. There is a show. It comes out of South Korea. It gained international appeal on Netflix in 2021, and the show is called Squid Games. My understanding is most of you have not watched this. Has anyone watched this? All right. So for the 5 of you, I got 2 paragraphs to describe it, and then we're all back on the same page. So you all could do whatever you need to do when I go through this. The premise is simple. A man is struggling in his life, and he is struggling financially. A salesman approaches him multiple times, each time promising him if he goes on this game show, he could win, and he could find financial stability. It will turn his life around, and eventually he agrees. And they bring him to the studio, they dress him in a jumpsuit, they give him a number and replace his name. And then very soon he is placed in his first reality-style game along with hundreds of other contestants. It is a simple game of red light, green light with a large animatronic depiction of a girl who calls out red light and green light. And whenever the light is green, contestants have to run closer to the girl. And when she says red light, everyone must freeze, just like the childhood game. The twist of this game is that anyone who does not follow these rules, anyone who moves, is killed instantly. The rest of the first season is this horror show-style suspense thriller, watching contestants struggle with each other, struggle with trust, struggle with their real mortality on the line. While in 2021 this was a well-acclaimed TV show, I cannot in good conscience recommend you fill your brain with it right now. Now, if you want to watch it, go ahead. It's a well-done show, but I don't think it's a lot of good energy in it. I'm using it instead to point to a couple of things. The first is what this piece of art tells us about where we are as a culture. It is clearly a criticism of capitalism, the system that we all inherited that puts profit and entertainment over health and well-being. But I want to use that as a point of contrast to work into the second part of the 2-part sermon series on money that Reverend Meredith and I are doing. I want us to trace the difference between what Squid Games is embodying and what we are called to as a religious people as it relates to money, success, and legacy. So the goal of this sermon series is actually a reduction of the first idea. We originally wanted to spend all of Lent talking with you about money, but we thought you wouldn't like that. Is that fair? A couple of years ago, we spent all of Lent talking about death. You were fine with that. So why is it that talking about money in church is scarier than death? Is it because there is so much shame we put around it? Is it because we have constructed a world that tells us we should not talk about it? That there's just a mysterious group who have figured it out and that the rest of us have not yet beat the game? Inequality thrives on silence. Those who have accumulated wealth stand to keep more of it. The rest of us don't know the same games. I wonder what it would look like for each of you who go to work, to go into your work, and every time you introduce yourself, you say your name and how much you earn. My name is Samantha. I earn $72,000. My name is Jason. I earn $24,000. I wonder what it would do to our system if we were able to do that without the shame or embarrassment. I think it's a good practice, and also with it, employers can underpay some people if you do not talk about your salaries. So I just want to kind of name that as a reality. I think it is a good practice to be articulate about our money story, to name what our family stories about money are. Last week, Reverend Meredith shared hers, so I'm going to tell you a little of mine. I'm going to tell you something that is both true and not true at the same time. I grew up rich, and I grew up poor. My family always had the money we needed to cover all of our expenses. I was one of 4 children in a single-income family. Some of my childhood was spent renting houses. Some of it was spent living in houses we owned. Some of the time we spent living in houses that my grandmother or my great-aunt owned. So we were rich in that we had everything we needed and a significant safety net if things got financially troubled. And we also grew up quite poor. There was an assumption in my family that we did not have enough money. Often my parents would exchange cars with others of my aunts and uncles. So it was like a whole system we had for if one car breaks, it goes to my uncle who would fix it, and we would borrow my aunt's car from my uncle, and it was like this rotate. Did anyone else live like this? No? We also, all right. We did that with lawnmowers too. I remember when I was an adult, my dad said, I'm liberated, I finally bought my own lawnmower. Because in the family, we had enough money to buy a lawnmower, but the family wouldn't let him. Like not my mom and the kids, but the larger family system. No, I'll just go grab my aunt's lawnmower from her house, give it to you while I work on this. Like we were in that kind of rotation. My parents didn't ever have the opportunity to save for me to go to college. I got incredibly lucky because TOPS passed the Louisiana Scholarship Program my senior year in high school, and I got a free ride to college because of that. My family grew up rich enough for us to be safe, but never rich enough for us to assume that we were okay. Part of that upbringing was me not knowing how to donate to charity. I always had an idea that there was only a little bit of money and we had to hold on to all of it pretty tight. I grew up with it, and I still find this to be true, that there's an idea that I can somehow beat the system if I can find a deal. I preached on this a while ago, and a couple of you mentioned you're also a part of this, right? Like if I can find not the 20% off clearance thing at Target, which is not clearance, but if I could find, like last summer, they were putting all of their last year's Christmas stuff on clearance, and it was like 70% off, and I was there. Like $10 Lego sets that used to be $70. I don't need it, but I got it. So that's part of how I was raised. And I'll invite you to think about what your own money story is. Was there pride? Was there shame? Was your family stories true? We're bringing this up because as of last week, we have started this very ambitious strategic plan. This is a plan that will likely result in a capital drive later in the year. And this capital drive means that you may be asked for money in the fall. And it also means then we are going to talk about money a lot. So let me start with the mindset that our consultant, Mark Ewert, laid out for the team. And it helped me understand the money ask a little better, because I never really knew any of these tricks from my upbringing. Funding a church actually comes from 3 legs on a stool. The first leg is the operating budget. This is what we pay for the day-to-day operations of the church. He said the operating budget should always come out of the church members' pledges out of their checking account, the money that you interact with day to day. The next leg of the stool are capital gifts, which is all of a capital drive will be. These are all monies that should come out of your savings account, out of the investments you have. And the third leg of the stool is legacy giving. And these are intentions to give to the church out of someone's estate after they die. There are always larger gifts in a capital drive. The endowment gifts are often larger, but not always. There is an endowment task force right now that is working on recommendations to the board that you will eventually see. And the idea of endowment giving and legacy giving is if you gave $100 and it went into the endowment that we don't yet have, but we will, and it earned 4% interest, you would be pledging $4 of that 100 for the rest of eternity to this church. If you give $100,000, that would be a $4,000 pledge forever to this church. Like, that's the kind of way to think about it. And the reason the 3 legs of the stool are different is because each of them does a different thing. So let's say I need a volunteer. Just raise your hand. It's okay. All right. No, you can just stay there. You just found $30,000 walking into the church. Good job. And you've decided to give it to the church. If you put it in your annual pledge, we're going to say, oh, that's great. Look, she's pledging a whole lot more. Let's hire a tech to work in the sound booth every Sunday. Sorry, Brian, you're out. And then next year, when you don't find the $30,000, we can't afford them anymore, right? So operating gifts coming out of your regular income make a lot more sense in how we run the church. If, however, you decided with that $30,000 you wanted to help buy 2 new air conditioners, now we have air conditioners for another 20 or 30 years. Does that kind of make sense? All right. We'll get into more of the Squid Games and the legacy stuff in a little while, but I first wanted you to hear this reflection from a colleague of ours.
When my friend Beth answered her door one day, she found a pair of earnest Mormon missionaries, young men wishing to chat with her about their religion. Beth being Beth, she invited her visitors in, listened to what they had to say, and in response shared her good news, her beliefs about justice and inclusion, of being responsible for the most vulnerable among us, of countering oppression with love. The point wasn't to change their minds, and the missionaries must have realized that they weren't going to change hers. Beth's intention was to create a moment of connection beyond or in spite of opposing beliefs. At the end of their visit, one of the Mormons asked, "Shall we pray together before we leave?" "Yes," said Beth, "I'll go first." And so she said a prayer, and then the missionaries said a prayer, and they parted ways. Days went by. The weather grew oppressively hot. Again, one afternoon, Beth heard her doorbell. On her doorstep were the same missionaries, wilting in the harsh sun. "Can we have some water?" one of them asked. Beth replied, "I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. Of course, come in." The young men drank their water, thanked her, and left. Beth never saw them again, but those missionaries have never left my mind because their story forces me to examine my own heart and the way its doors sometimes stay stubbornly closed. If you or I knew that stranger was suffering from thirst outside our door, wouldn't we readily bring them water? But in order to offer that hospitality, we first have to identify ourselves, sometimes in inconvenient or uncomfortable ways, as helpers, as willing to offer kindness or connection to someone we might disagree with. Of all the doors they'd knocked on, in all the neighborhoods in Beth's town, a pair of devoted Mormons sought help from Beth, not just because she had embodied the religion of kindness, but also because she risked opening her door to them the first time they visited.
I have two different kinds of offerings to tell you about. The first is our annual plant sale fundraiser. So, Connie, can I get people to see you? Wave. Thank you. If you want to hear more information, maybe described more eloquently, please see Connie. But what I will say is, if you want to start plants for our plant sale, now's a good time. I know nothing about gardening, so I'm going to trust that. Two, We have peace poles for sale, so you can buy them, take them home, and decorate them, and then they'll be sold at our plant sale. If you're intimidated by decorating them, there's going to be a group craft day on April 12th to decorate them here together. So I hope folks will enjoy that and have fun with that. I think they'll be beautiful. Second, it might be hard to believe, but today is the first day of March, and our shared offering for the month of March goes to the Louisiana Organization for Refugees and Immigrants, or LORI. LORI provides support for refugees and immigrants through advocacy, legal aid, and community empowerment. I know lots of folks here in the congregation have worked with them, and we know how important their work is right now. Please give generously as you're able. The offering will now be gratefully given and received.
So there's a show that's a little before my time. I only actually knew about it because I used to watch the Disney show 101 Dalmatians, and had a kind of cameo on it. It was called, I Think This Is Your Life. Anyway, when I lived in, it was a show where there's like a guest on, and they would have people from that guest's life who would kind of say their story, and he would have to guess who they were based on their voice. Has anyone seen that show? So when I lived in Washington, D.C., the National Gallery of Art would from time to time remaster and show either TV shows or movies that they had some artistic merit. And my wife and I went to one where they had, I think it was like the university, UCLA or something, remastered some of the old episodes of this show that came out right after World War II. And before we were able to watch it, the curator came up and gave all of us a number of qualifiers. He said, I want you to know that the language that is used in this show and some of the sets that are used, they were created before we had created a national culture for how to talk about the war and the Holocaust. And after he gave us that warning, we watched the show, and sure enough, they had reconstructed, so this was someone who had escaped the Holocaust, escaped Germany to America, and they had reconstructed the house where he was hid. And they had one of the guests, the voice, was hiding in the same hiding place that he was hidden in for years. The thing is, whenever we are in the middle of a major traumatic historical event, we do not have the language for it. We don't necessarily know what we've experienced until we have some distance and we start trying to figure it out together as a larger society. Which things we all agree we will talk about and which we will let go of. It's not surprising that Squid Games gained popularity in 2021, 1 year after the COVID shutdowns, even though we as a culture were not able to face the existential terror that time put us through. We were still seeking out types of art and media that helped us to understand what we were experiencing. It's not about the show being made. It's about the fact that 1 year post-shutdown is when we, as a collective group of people in this country, decided that that is what we needed to spend our energy consuming. It was a time where people were afraid of death. They were afraid of a surprise death. They were afraid of the thing that we had never experienced before. And as we've always done, people turned to art to help us understand what we have been through. I am absolutely convinced that we are in one of those unprocessed points right now as a people. The rise of fascism, not just in this country, but all over the world, points to our aggregate desire for certainty in a world that feels less and less certain. In times of great conflict and uncertainty, it is common in this country for those with power and those whose identities allow them to feel safer with an allegiance to those with power, for them to start closing the doors on who is welcome and who is safe. None of us know how this world will remember the 2020s because we are in it right now. I am absolutely convinced we are seeing a new kind of Jim Crow and a new kind of racism emerge right before our eyes, and we don't have a language for it yet. Because this is a service about money, it's really a service about how we engage in the world. How do we invest in this world in a way that isn't the cynicism of Squid Games, but is with an open heart and in a way that brings us to the promised land? I think the way we get to legacy, the way we get to have the world as we wished it was, is first to know ourselves deep and well, and then for you to know your culture. You have to know where you come from. You have to know who your family is and why your family is. The work we do as a religious people is deep discernment individually, and us as one culture and us as an accumulation of multiple cultures. Because revealed in each of us, in each of our cultures, is the moral conscience striving to get out. We cannot get away from Squid Games and into legacy until we have done that work. You and your people are the masters of the message of where you come from. So I want you to hear the words of a white Cajun man. I found him on TikTok. Came out a few months ago, and in the speed and chaos of our current political environment, it seems like we zip from one crisis to the next. But we must not lose sight of the trauma that we have been living through. Please let us not forget that less than 2 months ago, our federal government sent militarized troops into Minneapolis to terrorize that community. 2 people, maybe more, were killed during that campaign. 3 months ago, the federal government sent militarized troops into Baton Rouge to terrorize immigrants and people who looked like immigrants. The video you're going to see here is an internal dialogue among Cajun cultures. While I am from Louisiana and pretty deeply from Louisiana, the Cajun cultures this man is talking about are not my cultures. In fact, I hesitated to share this video with you because it points to a type of inner dialogue that is not necessarily appropriate for those of us who are not a part of this culture to engage in. And still, enough of us are Cajun in this church that I think it is worth you being able to witness this inner dialogue. The man's normal videos are of him driving around Acadiana, finding locals, documenting their accents, their history, and their cultures. He is using that work to help guide some of his own people. While I do not agree with all of his assumptions, and you may not as well, if this is not your culture, I will invite you to just into a period of curious observation. After that, after the video, we're gonna sing a hymn while we're seated. Then we're gonna hear a poem from Clint Smith. He's a poet from New Orleans, and then we're gonna sing a little more seated, and then we'll close the service. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, y'all. If you identify as Cajun, I'd like to share some important facts and history of our families with you. I ask that you take a moment to stop and really think about them. In 1604, our families left France and settled the maritime provinces of Canada known as Acadie, where they made allies and intermarried with the indigenous Mi'kmaq people. This lasted for about 150 years until after the British gained control of Acadie, at which point our Acadian families were expected to swear an unconditional oath of loyalty to become British subjects. Heroes like Beausoleil Broussard stood and refused to denounce their Catholic religion, cultural identities, or take up arms against French or indigenous people. This led to the Grand Dérangement, the Great Deportation. From 1755 to 1764, the English decided to deport everyone of the wrong ethnicity. British soldiers enforcing the law went door to door arresting our families, intentionally separating women from their husbands, children from their parents, throwing them in prison ships and sending them off. Of the 14,000 Acadians, over 11,000 were deported. Of the 11,000 deported, more than 5,000 died in the process. It was an ethnic cleansing and is regarded as a crime against humanity. They were shipped to many different locations, with the groups who eventually arrived in Louisiana being the ones that pertain to us. Now, Louisiana was a giant French territory that encompassed the entire middle third of the U.S. What you may have forgotten or might not have been taught is that during the time of our family's arrivals, from 1764 to 1785, France was not in control of Louisiana. Spain was. And when our families had no place to call home, it was a fellow Latin culture that said, yeah, you can come maintain your religion and identity here. We'll take you in. Our families didn't immigrate to the U.S., as that country didn't even exist yet. They didn't immigrate at all. They were asylum-seeking political refugees that were taken in by Hispanics. And not only were they welcomed, but their hard work ethic in the fields, growing and picking crops, would be celebrated as the value that contribution has to a society was understood. Our families then began to intermarry with local indigenous people, Hispanics like the Ramirez and Viatars, and free people of color who had left New Orleans. Upon the U.S. taking control of Louisiana in 1803, we were not immediately considered Americans. It was quite the opposite. Enough so that in 1921, the government banned the use of our language in schools. Children were beaten, humiliated, and shamed for not being true Americans. If you're one of those that says, my grandparents never taught me the language, or they spoke that in front of us so that we wouldn't know what they were saying, let me tell you this. I've spent my entire life with our old people listening and learning. And I've never once heard one say, I denied my children the language because we wanted to tell secrets. What I have had them tell me is we were ashamed, we were haunted, we were embarrassed. We were told that we were bad, we were taught that we were less than. See, the difference between them and their great-grandparents is that when the English came to Acadie, they confronted grown men. When they did it to our grandparents, they went after children. It's much easier to break a child to the point that they grow up to tell their progeny, just do how they want. I don't want you to go through what I went through. Just comply. It was the crushed mindset of defeated children that stole your language from you. Though even after learning English, our people still face discrimination. It's important to remember that in those days, that Spanish grandfather wasn't considered white. That native grandmother everybody's so proud to claim wasn't white. And Lord knows it wasn't okay in Anglo society to have so much as one single drop of African blood. That discrimination continued all the way until 1980 with Roach versus Dresser Industries, where courts ruled that Cajuns were a protected minority ethnic group, thanks to Title VII of the Civil Rights Act from 1964. I ask that you think hard about these facts. Think hard about your ancestors. I'm not looking to argue with anybody. I support everybody's freedom to believe anything they want. That said, I will say for myself, as a Cajun descendant, I can't imagine that supporting what was done to my ancestors being done to another minority group by the same group of people and ideology that did it to my family would make all those mamas and papas real proud. I think there's a lot of old Cajuns rolling over in their graves right now. As a Catholic, I can't imagine siding with actions against the teachings of Jesus, the Bible, or the words of the Pope. And as a grown man raised in a conservative home that believed in faith, family, firearms, fighting, and freedom, that I could be expected to stand idly by and watch violence against women and children. But that's just me, and these are just facts.
Each
There is a lake here, a lake the size of outstretched arms. And no, not the type of arms raised in surrender. I mean the sort of arms beckoning to be held, to wrap themselves around one another and never let go. And no, the lake is not a place where people are drowning. And no, this water is not that which comes from a storm which turns a city into a tessellation of broken windows and spray paint. There are children swimming here, splashing one another while the droplets ricochet between them. The droplets do not hurt. They simply roll down the side of the boy's cheek. No, the boy is not using the water to hide his tears. He is laughing. Eyes cast out across the water, in awe of how vast it is.
We will not rest till the world is won. We will not rest till good is done, till the world is safe and free from fear. We will not rest till peace is here. Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy and loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew.
We are divided into groups all the time. The strategies teacher used to manage classroom, boys over here, girls over here, fast readers here, slow readers here. When you divide a group, you keep them from uniting and you can control their behavior. Our work as a religious people is to avoid being stuck into narratives that are not ours. I shared that video with you because I think it is a perfect model for how within each of us there is a culture and a family history that can point us towards a more loving and just world. What is it in your family history? What is it in your cultures or wherever you are from, however you are raised, that help you hold firm to the moral center when so much of this larger culture is telling you to let it go, especially when it is telling you to align with false dichotomies and narratives? This is a church that can talk about death. This is a church that can talk about sex. And this is still a church that hides from talking about money. The next 6 months are going to be an interesting growth point for this church. Right now, we are asking you to cast a vision for the future of your church. We're asking you to do that at a time where you are being told you cannot plan for the future. We're asking you to do that at a time when the future feels farther away than I've ever experienced in my lifetime. We're asking you to join with this church to figure out who we are so that we can help this world figure out what it is at a time when we are told not to do so. Let me give you an example of how Louisiana culture plays out in this church and how we need to work to understand it. And I'm saying this with all the love in the world, but I have never worked so hard or struggled so hard to elicit pledges from a congregation. Not most of you, but every time in this church, about half of you pledge by the time the pledge drive is done, and some of you don't turn in your pledges until January. That's just part of the pattern and the DNA of the church. And there's never an individual who falls into any particular category. It's just the aggregate behavior of this congregation. Now, this is not a shame thing. This is because, and I feel like this mirrors our Louisiana culture very well. We live in a state that says we don't have enough money for good schools. We don't have enough money for good infrastructure. We have to give Exxon what Exxon needs so they won't leave us. We rob our people of their cultures and replace it with stories about working in oil fields and stories about how funny politics are here. And yet every Mardi Gras time, We whip open those checkbooks like it's nobody's business. I find an excuse to pay $40. I found out this year it's $55 for stale cinnamon rolls that we call king cakes. I'm going to die on that hill, just so you know. Every rider of every float has a reason to buy thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of junk to throw to you just so that you can feel joy. As hard as it is for me to get pledges in before the pledge drive is done in this church, this is the most generous church I have ever been in. Every memorial service, including yesterday, the care team looks at the food and says, I don't think we have enough. And every time you have so much food, there's a bowl of chips out there right now from the 2 memorial services yesterday. Every time there's an event, there's always a question of whether or not whenever we have an event, there's always a question of whether or not we should have food, and food always shows up in great, great amounts. You have a stone soup church. You are able to share generously, but I'm not convinced we as a congregation have gotten over that Louisiana hump that says we don't have enough money. This is not a sermon to convince you to give beyond your means. We are intentionally doing this at a time when you are not being asked for money, so that we can have open discussions about money without it feeling like we're just trying to get you to give a certain way or to feel a certain thing or to trick you into giving. The reality of this congregation is that you have wealth beyond measure. You have within you as a group and as some individuals all the faculties to not only weather the storm we are experiencing right now, but to create a place where we can celebrate and enjoy being together. You need not look any further than Tuesday night when 100 of you showed up to plan out the future of this church. 100. That is an absurd number for a Tuesday night. It will be easy for us to say we don't have enough money, we can't do this. And individually, we do not. And those handful who have the ability to give pretty heavy gifts, we don't do it with just those gifts. The only way this church gets to where the city and the state and you personally deserve is for all of us to let go of the cynicism and the helplessness that led to the creation and the proliferation of the shows like Squid Games. We do not have an amount requirement to be a part of the Legacy Quilt. We don't say you have to give a minimum of $25,000 or anything like that. We have some people on that quilt who may give us more than $1 million, and we have some people who have given only a few hundred. The amount isn't the point. The intention is. The work we are doing as a church is to ask ourselves, do you trust your experiences here are profound enough, that they are real enough, that we can give so that that next generation and the generation after that will have this experience? The times we are living in are hard. They are hard by design. We have within us and our cultures a way out. It is built deep within each of us. Love is what is asking us to drive forward. Amen. I invite you to rise if your body lets you for the closing hymn.
Cry in my sleep, Lord.
I cannot swim. Friends, carry me over. Open your arms, take me in. Love, call me home. Time, ferry me down the river. Friends, carry me safely over. Life, tend me on my journey. Love, call me home. Take the gift that I bring. Friends, carry me over. Deep within me I sing. Love, call me home. Time, ferry me down the river. Friends, carry me safely over. Life, tend me on my journey. Love, call me home. Life offers a chance. Friends, carry me over. Time cannot stop its dance. Love, call me home. Time, ferry me down the river. Friends, carry me safely over. Life, tend me on my journey. Love, call me home.
Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Go in peace, go in love. Amen.